Hello, how you going? This is my build on how to make the best crafting station ever. I'm starting by raising the foundations. You have to have a pretty flat area to do this at, because you need to raise the foundations by 2 and lower the foundations by 3. You can't just raise the foundation, lower the foundations by 3 and then just use ceilings. Which works just as well, except that sometimes when you drop stuff it falls through the ceiling. So yeah, just make sure that you don't do what I just did there. It's because the pillar is a little bit too low. There's actually 2 snap points, and you want to make sure you get the higher snap point so that it raises the pillar and it doesn't lower the pillar or foundation. Yeah, we're working on lowering the foundations. The lowered foundations are lowered by 3, and it's where all the crafting stations and other stuff is going to be on. The good thing about this build is that you don't have to move at all. You can access the forges, the chemistry benches, the fabricators, and the vaults, and a whatchamacallit, replicator if you want to put one in there as well. I'll show that at the end on if you wanted to add like another one. I'm kind of rushing this because I've done this too many times and I'm kind of just want to get back to playing, so I'm kind of sick of doing it. And it takes a lot of practice. I would recommend making sure that you practice it on creative mode. There's an option for it in single player when you're starting, or you can just press start and then you press Y, X, left bumper, right bumper at the same time and enter the cheat. Give creative mode, that also does it. Yeah, I'm not even sure what I'm up to in the game. Don't I make a great commentator? Nah, not really. I was thinking about doing a whole bunch of memes and shit, but I was like, nah, fucking say this. Let's just get this over with. Like, you'll notice a lot that I don't use ladders to align everything, and I could have made the vaults more aligned, and I could have added a fabricator on that one spot that was missing a fabricator. But yeah. It's just for a video, so I was like, fuck it, if you guys want to get really anal about it, you can add like probably another like 6 to 8 vaults, just by like aligning the vaults proper. And there's like lots of stuff you can do with this build. Just the first part's the basic simple part. Where am I up to? I'm putting the electric cords down now that I've lowered the foundation by 3. You got to keep the lowered foundation by 2 and the lowered foundation by 1 because we use those later. Yeah, this is so that there's power to the chemistry benches. Man, I'm fucking hanging for a Daria. Like, I have to wait until tomorrow until I can buy Siggy's again. Siggy butt brain. But yeah, that's another reason why I'm kind of like rushing it. It's just because I don't know. I want to go to sleep so I can wake up and it'll be tomorrow already. Yeah. All right. Now this part's really complicated. Make sure that you there's actually 2 snap foundations points, as you see. Make sure that you have it on the higher one. If you put it on the lower one, it fucks the whole build up. Like, you got to do this a lot exact and proper, because if not, then yeah, you're gonna waste a lot of resources. That's why I suggest also practicing it on single player. I have it snapped now to the higher snap point on the second the foundation that was lowered by 1, and the ones that have the 2, make sure you put those first. The ones where the ones that's where the forges are going. We're removing the other pillars, but if you demolish any of the pillars, then all the other ones will demolish because they're not like snapped to another thing yet. So we're putting in the ceilings. That way, now that we have the ceilings like connected, when you destroy the pillars that don't have 2, you won't destroy everything. Like, one thing with this build is it's pretty technical to make. Like, you have to follow the steps, because yeah, it's something I would highly suggest practicing in single player before you actually build it in PvP and stuff. Yeah, with this part you can add another fabricator, and if you do it just perfect, it has to be like pretty much like pixel perfect for every single one. It's actually not too hard, it just takes a lot of time and I couldn't be bothered. You can fit 2 in those areas, you can fit 4 here like I do, but then you'll still have the room left to walk, whereas I didn't. I was just rushing it, so you won't be able to use the bottom entrance to walk, which is really convenient, because yeah, you can make that one area just for walking instead of the top part, and it's really easy to get through, so you can go in between the dinosaur unloading area. This build is good for if you don't use body bags. You can use this even if you do, because I mean, it's just like really convenient to have everything in one spot where you don't have to move. You can just access everything. How many times I've been frustrated where you just need to get a little bit closer just to, but see, then you have to drop everything, and it's just like, so why don't you just have everything where like you can just access it from one area without having to move, so you don't have to drop it and waste extra time. Yeah, and I'm pretty sure you can fit 4, 8, 10, yeah, so 12 fabricators, and then like you can also extend it as well. Like, if you wanted 5 forges, you just keep extending it. You just got to make sure that as long as the bottom part, as long as that doesn't get obstructed, which is why you need a decently flat area, because it's being lowered 3 times and then you have to extend it. You could also just use it for for a single forge. I'm doing 3 forges. Yeah, so if you do this one pixel perfect right here, where I'm aligning these fabricators, then you'll actually be able to walk through this area like that, and that other side as well. All right. And it's very important that you've clipped the ceiling to the one that was lowered by 2, because this is like, if it was one ceiling higher, then these fabricators would be obstructing the chemistry benches that we're going to be putting up top. So it's right now those ceilings are not connected to the pillars; they're connected to the wall. Yep. Alright. Yeah, so they're connected to the wall, which is actually one thing higher than the than where the actual pillars are connected to. That allows just for the these chemistry benches to not be obstructed, and the reason that we have the pillars too high is that way the chemistry benches don't obstruct the forge when they're on those pillars. And the reason the pillars are too high as well is because you want to make sure that you have as much reaching range as possible. If you like just put 2 pillars down, you won't be able to reach it. You'd have to jump, and that would just be annoying. And yeah, the reason that you can actually access the forges is because we've raised the foundation by 2 and lowered it by 3, and so everything will be just perfect. The one problem with this build though is like if you get raided or something, oh man, like it's not like yeah, you'd have to repair it by like removing things, like just to re-add things. And But you know, like, I mean, you'd have to get raided, and they'd have to breach you, and then they'd have to be salty enough or just griefy enough to want to just destroy your crafting stations as well, which isn't unheard of course, but alright, now I forgot how I did it, but I made it so, like, on the build that I was showing my friend, it was like Aberration. It was one of those like places that didn't have any land access, and I removed the ceiling for this pillar here. I think I like added a wall on the other side, that way there was like, it was still clipped and stuff, and then you could still go through the fabricators, because I had it like pixel perfect. Alrighty, that's how you know it's working right there. And that has to be like perfect. The if the chemistry benches was literally like one raised slightly one higher, like if it was a one raised foundation higher, it wouldn't fit. If the pillar was one lower, or if it was like, it can still be one higher and you can still reach it, but this is like the lowest it'll go, which will give you the maximum range and stuff for when you're doing shit. But yeah, like I'm gonna make another video on it, and with a little bit more. I'm just planning on like giving this to Lucky by Nature, or some YouTuber, and a couple of friends if they want to share it with the world. I think it's pretty convenient, especially if you don't use body bags. Like, oh, super useful if you don't use body bags, because oh, it just sucks having to like carry like only 2 metal ingots, or 2 stacks of metal ingots on and then or like throwing everything. Like, you can whip it and get knocked out and have your friend drag it, but if you don't have a friend, or if you play solo, then it's just like inconvenient, and then you basically need another person with you to do mass crafting the entire time. Whereas this is the area right here where I have it on the other one, where you can just demolish the ceiling that's on the pillar, and the other fabricators are close enough to, like, they're pixel perfect that you can just fit through the and you can also add another foundation like the high ones, and yeah, it's much easier to walk through and stuff, whereas you kind of got to crouch with this one. But yeah, I'm sure you'll figure it out. This right here, if you do that, then I'm pretty sure that you can now remove that, but I didn't, because I didn't think of it when I was recording. But yeah, so you could remove that middle pillar without everything crashing down. But I'm not 100% sure on that, because I was, yeah. Make sure you don't do it while, like if you're gonna remove that pillar, just go into the single player first. But I do have it where the pillar's still there, but you can squeeze through it, and so is the ceiling, so you can just walk. And that's where I have the like the shortcut, I guess. And that's basically the whole build. Like yeah, you can now just, you know, chuck a fabricator down, and everything else is really like open to however you want to build, like customization. This is kind of like just the yeah, the main part of the build. So thanks for watching. If you want to see the trick that I'm doing with the vaults, so that there's heaps of vaults aligned, it's not really like that big of a deal. You just stack 2 vaults on top of each other. But one thing I didn't do was make it, oh actually no, I think I did actually, never mind. Yeah, so this is the unloading area that I'm building right now, where, you know, you take your dyno and you throw everything on the ground and whip it up and good to go, or you know, just have your dyno there and take it off by the dyno. But yeah, you wouldn't have to move to access the forges and all that other good stuff. Yes, the part that I'm building right now, like, it's really highly customizational, you know, basically. All you need is those higher foundations. Basically the lowered foundation area, like all what's built on that is pretty strict, and that's really all you need. But you also want the higher foundations, because it's kind of like if it was any lower, then you wouldn't be able to reach the forge. But if you can't, you can use ceilings like that. I'm just making the what do you call it, the vault area now, but you can use ceilings instead of the higher foundations if you can't get the too high, too raised foundation clipping on it. Although I did this weird trick the other day, and I showed my friend. It's like basically floating pillars, like they're clipped onto something. Like you know how when you build a boat and you extend the foundations, like it's kind of like that, where it's not touching the ground or anything, and they're just like clipped onto something that is grounded. But and then you'd have the same thing with ceilings, where if they're too away from a foundation, then you need to put pillars down. But yeah, it was like floating pillars, and I was like, what? I think I deleted that video though, because yeah, I know how to replicate it though, so that's interesting. Yeah, so this is the human area. The spot behind you is the dyno unloading area. You can still access all these vaults from the other side. So in case the dynos, like, you need to move a whole bunch of heavy stuff from the vaults or into the vaults, like extra resources that you're not using, then you can still do that. But this little area here is the like basically human only area. I'm sure you could probably like maybe, I don't know, fit a horse or something, but I really rushed the pillar part. What I did with my proper build, the non-rushed one, is I used glass ceilings and a ladder to make sure I was straight, and then I would line the vaults according to the dots, because there's dots on the glass ceilings, and you can use those for visual reference on, like, to make sure everything's like perfectly straight and whatnot. And I think it was on the fourth dot closest to you when you're on the ladder, like you put your first one there, and then you put your top vaults on like I think it was like 5, and because they I think it was 3 and 5, and that way you can still access it from every single, you can be standing as close as you can to the fabricators and still access both vaults. But then because it's overhanging slightly the top vault, you can still access both vaults from the side where dynos can access, which is useful. Again, this like this part's really highly customizable. Only the lowered foundations and the too high foundation area needs to be. You can use ceilings as well in case in fact, like one good idea is like find, like, if there's a slope on the ground and you can't put hired the two raised foundations on both sides is just have the side where your unloading dynos are, have that as foundations, because items are like, yeah, here's an example of how I just yeah, you can access everything. And then yeah, it overhangs like that. I'm not sure if I got it right, but okay, this is the next little thing. It's not like or it's not mandatory, but and you can be a lot more precise and make sure everything's better aligned and stuff and less messy looking. But I'm just adding a replicator at this part. Yeah, so you make the side where your unloading station for your dynos, that way it can't go through the foundations. Because sometimes when you like drop a lot of items, it'll fall through the ceiling. So like if you have to try to make the side with the higher foundations, make those the side that has the dynos, and then the ceiling part will actually also be as if it was raised one higher, so you'll be slightly higher to the forges, which gives you slightly more range to grab stuff. Yeah, so you can basically just put a replicator like smack dab in the middle. You can also move the forges moderately left and right. I wouldn't recommend putting a ceiling and having this the forges on a ceiling, because it like unless you get it like perfect, it obstructs the like a lot of times you won't be able to grab it from the front or the back side, whereas just being on straight on pillars, you'll be able to access it from any side, and also completely under, whereas if you're like if it's on a ceiling, then it's pretty hard to go under. It'll be like right under it, because the ceiling will obstruct it and you won't be able to grab it. That's a bit too far away, so I'm gonna demolish that. But really you only need like the lowered 3 foundations and the raised foundation twice, but with that you can substitute it for ceilings. As long as you can get it raised twice, then you just use ceilings and pillars. That's if like you're working on a not flat area, because my proper base, it's like in a pretty sloped area, and so I on the upward slope, so it like kind of slopes, and I have the foundations sunken in 3 times, and then on the unloading side, it's where like it slopes upwards, I have the higher foundations, because obviously it'll fit because the ground is higher up. But then if you go on the lower side, it's it won't be able to touch the ground or whatever, so I just use ceilings and it works just as good. Doesn't look as pretty, but I mean, doesn't look too bad. Yeah, see, if I aligned it, if I did the alignment better and stuff, I could have gotten the vaults to just, I could put another foundation there, but I'm just rushing it because I'm like, yeah. Actually, I had to like re-record this like 10 times because like I kept messing up the steps. Like the beginning part, making sure everything's perfect, is pretty pedantic. You got to make sure like it clips onto the right clipping, even though it's like the smallest amount will change it and whatnot. Yeah, so that's the then you can access dynos in that area as well to access all those vaults. And you have the front area where you can unload to the forges with your dynos. And I think I'm just like adding a couple of grinders now on the side, like if you're like nearer to a wall, you can also chuck more vaults. Basically where the generator is on my proper build, on both sides there's 8 vaults, basically stacked, 4 on a single foundation and then 4 stacked on top of that, and so that's another 16 vaults. 4, 8, yeah, 16 vaults. Basically where the electric thingy is, I just I delete the generator and I put it somewhere else, but then I have on each side 8 there, And then on the unloading side, because we're closer to a wall, or like we're next to a wall on one of the sides, I just line it up with stacked vaults. You have your regular vaults, and then you have more vaults on top of that, but overhanging, and that gave me an extra, like, I think 10 vaults. So yeah, plenty of vault space. And if you did it better, like I tried to do, but I kind of end up failing, you can stack even more, what do you call those things? Grinders. You can stack like 8 grinders if you wanted to. Like I actually like the idea of having, like, 20 grinders, because it means you can just get like 3 or 4 bags and just do a massive bag run of stone, and then just fill everything up once, and then boom, you have a dyno that's like max level, super quick. Whereas if you have to just do it, like if you only have 1 or 2 grinders, then go and get your stone, and you stock your 1 or 2 grinders up, and then you're out of. Then you have to go and get stone again. And it's just better to get like 10 bags. Like literally, like I have a Quetz build, and you have a safe room with like 4 benches in it, and you put all your body bags. Like literally take like 10 body bags with you, and then have like a chair or a bench outside, and then you just take one of the bags out once it's full, switch it out, and do 10 bag runs, because it saves traveling, especially for Ragnarok where everything's more spread out. It means that you can basically get 10 bags of wood in about 2 to 3 hours, which is a shit ton of wood. Yeah, so I tried stacking more just to see what would happen, but it's you'd have to like align like the you'd have to have them on lower foundations and rah. So I was just like, whatever. It's basically the basic build. Yeah, you got your dyno unloading area. Couple of things I could fix to make it a bit better, but oh yeah, this is the bed part. Like especially if you're like on Ragnarok, and you're getting all your metal from aberration, since aberration's like literally the best for metal. And when you're using the transmitter to you just go to a different server, go to this, and have a bed that's perfectly aligned with 2 forges and some of the vaults. That way you can just throw everything in there. There's lots of other things you probably can do as well, but this is like basically the basic build. It's only like the first part when I just before I said bye. That's kind of the main basic part. Everything else is, well, you can do whatever you want, really. I'm just getting some resources just to show you that the chemistry benches do work. But yeah, that's my build. I hope you share it with everyone that you know. Let everyone know about this cool little build. Definitely worth it if you don't use bags.